I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Beta male.
Wet-ass viewer.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
From the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. A little bit of a spoiler, I guess. It's Wednesday, and it's not a good day. It's not the greatest day. So half the week is over, but of course we've got some disastrous news. Disastrous election news. Yes, there was an election yesterday. Yes, I'm pretty sure a lot of you didn't even notice because, well, why? And of course, we're going to give you that story. Just disastrous all around. So we're going to talk about this. Just be warned, if you were, okay, well, let me just put this right. I'm going to criticize Democrats heavily today. So I'm just giving you a warning. Trigger warning, perhaps. I'm going to criticize Joe Biden and the Democrats very, very much so, very heavily, and I will not be nice. So that's a warning. Take it if as you will. But the criticism, of course, always comes from a place of, hey, I'm criticizing them from the left. As somebody who wants to see actual lefty policies get enacted, I think a lot of you could understandably be very disappointed in the Democratic Party, and I'm going to share some of that. So I'm going to talk about that. We also have, of course, Trump saying ridiculous things about voter fraud, as usual. We got Rahm Emanuel, and actually something good involving Rahm Emanuel. And not only that, of course, we're going to discuss why Rahm Emanuel is a garbage person. We got Biden on student loans. Oh boy. And then finally, Lauren Boebert. So we've got kind of a mix of, criticizing both Democrats and Republicans today. And so that's what we do. We call it how we see it. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna call it like we see it and push for actual good policy and not watered down garbage. So that's what we're going to do here today. Please like and share the stream already. Let's see. Jeff saying he's going to criticize Democrats, not be very nice about it. Both means I'm in the right place, and it's what I expect from Jeff. Dems deserve it most of the time. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I try to be, I don't know, I try to be very, I wouldn't say nice, but I try to be fair. I don't just make things up about Democrats so that I can criticize Democrats. I don't make things up about Republicans so I can criticize Republicans. I criticize them based on factual information. So, and there's plenty to criticize Democrats for without having to go and make things up, positions that they don't have, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what we're going to do today, okay? I've never seen this before, but Waldorf Nation was in the chat the other day. Well, welcome, Gracie. I think you're going to enjoy the show, as I enjoy doing the show. And so stick around, please, for the next hour. And as I said, welcome. We are going to get into some very depressing news today. Let's do it. Let's do it. Gary, thank you. So by the way, Gary, if you're the one that I'm thinking of, first of all, thank you for showing up, and thank you, for being a member and supporting the show and all that stuff. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the feedback. And again, if you're the person that I'm thinking of, you've always been asking me to, to be more fair, right? And to be like, hey, make sure that if you're going to criticize the Democrats, you're going to criticize Joe Biden, make sure you do it in a constructive way, and in a way that is not like Republicans or like some people that claim to be on the left. You know what I'm saying? Like, do so in a place of fact, truth, and all that stuff. And that's what I try to do. And so, again, I want to make sure to be fair, but I also want to make sure to give good criticisms when they absolutely deserve it. Okay, but anyway, I've gone too much on this. No, not more fair, just fair and reality-based criticisms from the left. So anyway, we'll do that. Let's do it. Last night in Virginia was a terrible night for the Democratic Party, as conservative Clintonite and corporate-backed candidate Terry McAuliffe was absolutely destroyed by a Republican private equity guy named Glenn Youngkin. So Youngkin, of course, ran on the non-existent lie, of critical race theory, which excited conservatives. Conservatives love it. They eat this stuff up. Despite the fact that, of course, no conservative can ever really define critical race theory. In fact, there's a viral clip that has been going around that I've wanted to show you, and it basically shows you exactly how much conservatives who criticize critical race theory actually know about critical race theory.
What's the most important issue in the governor's race here in Virginia?
Getting back to the basics of teaching children, not teaching them critical race theory.
And what is critical race theory?
Well, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because I don't understand it that much, but it's something that what little bit that I know I don't care for.
And what have you heard that you don't
well,
that you
I'm
don't
not,
like?
I'm not going to, I don't have that much knowledge on it, but It's something that I don't care for.
You can almost see the gears turning in this guy's head. Like, I don't like critical race theory. I mean, I don't really know anything about it, but it's bad. It's critical, and it's race, and it's a theory. Now, let me tell you, I just don't feel comfortable with it, even though I don't know what this is about. Yeah, okay, great. That right there is why a lot of Republicans turned out. But where were the Democrats? Now, that's an important question because Democrats, look, Virginia is a blue state. Virginia is generally where Democrats actually do very well. And of course, that's the home of the defense industry, etc. And so there's a lot of Democrats in that area. What the hell happened? Where were they? Well, you're not going to be surprised that they decided not to show up. I know. So now, the thing is, Joe Biden won that state by 10% in 2020. So where were the Democrats? Again, I've got a couple of ideas of why they decided not to turn out. But first, let me go to the Democratic Party cable news response to this, of who they're blaming for this unmitigated disaster, this dumpster fire of election. They're blaming progressives. Of course they're going to blame progressives. Who else? As Common Dreams reports, several conservative Democrats, including Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, John Tester of Montana, claim that progressive refusal to allow the bipartisan infrastructure bill to pass the House was to blame. He says, I've got to tell you, in Virginia, where we've got a gubernatorial race tomorrow, that would really help Terry McAuliffe out a lot if we had been able to notch that win. Now, remember, what they're talking about, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, is a corporate bill that is stuffed with handouts and pork for big corporations. The bipartisan infrastructure bill contained nothing for the American people. It is strictly physical infrastructure, which, by the way, is important, roads, bridges, etc. But it also has, like I said, handouts for corporations, fossil fuels, big oil, etc. In fact, the absence of climate provisions in that was supposed to be supplemented by the human infrastructure package that was in the House that they were also supposed to vote on, which would, negate those investments in fossil fuel by actually doing something about climate change. Now, a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, has been stripped out by corporate Democrats. And so, look, for the bipartisan bill, again, remember, corporations and lobbyists are salivating over this bill. They want it so, so bad. I'm sure, though, cable news will tell you that we're sure that the American people really cared so much that corporations are allowed to get their pork. No. Come on.
Please.
Sorry. Wrong one.
Give me a break.
That's what it is. Come on. No, here's the thing. What the people actually want, what Democrat voters want, is a human infrastructure bill. They wanted the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. Now, they wanted it before it was pared back to almost nothing. And if you look at the polling, for example, the Medicare expansion, lowering drug prices, paid leave, child tax credits, raising taxes on billionaires, those were all incredibly popular with the voters. But look what happened. Almost all of that is stripped right out. Now there's more. Here's John Tester. He says, quote, and this is directed at progressives. We haven't gotten anything done. That says enough about their strategy. Their strategy. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, yes. What about your strategy? Your strategy of, let's do absolutely nothing. Not even the bare minimum. Let's do nothing and then somehow win. We're going to run on Orange Man bad. So now, Politico reporter Heather Cagle also tweeted after the race that was called that Democratic members of Congress are already texting me blaming progressives for the debacle in Virginia. And a senior aide to another House Democratic moderate told Axios' Hans Nichols that, it's clear passing a historic bipartisan infrastructure deal months ago would have energized President Biden's numbers, and that House progressives who stalled that vote had hurt McAuliffe. Another one. New York Times reporter Blake Hounsell also adds, some in Biden land are already asking themselves if the president has allowed himself to be tugged too far to the left in office. And those voices are likely to get louder now. What kind of fresh hell have we landed ourselves in? When cable news and as well as establishment media and corporate-backed politicians are all sitting there going, oh, golly gee, if only we had passed the bipartisan pork bill, we wouldn't have been we wouldn't have lost in these places like Virginia. Again, the pork bill that only gives everything to corporations. My God, man, we're in the bad place. I swear we're in the bad place. Maybe we all died in 2012, and now we're all in hell right now. That seems to be the only explanation of why this keeps happening. And sometimes being a progressive feels like pushing a boulder uphill, and every once in a while, Joe Manchin comes over with a sledgehammer to knock the boulder right back on top of your head. That's what's going on. But again, they literally had in Terry McAuliffe the most corporate establishment man backed with billionaire dollars. And he ran on Trump. He even ran ads for Youngkin. This is amazing because so he goes and pays for the Democratic Party, paid for ads for Youngkin, telling him his voters how close Youngkin is with Trump. You idiots! You ran ads for your enemies. Supposed enemies at this point. And of course, they ran on Trump bad and then got absolutely crushed. Just crushed. And now, again, they're blaming progressives. And so now they're coming up with, well, it was to fund the police. Obviously. Yes, it was to fund the police because to fund the police lost in Minnesota. How much police reform did we get? None. Absolutely none. And it turns out, look, unfortunately, defund the police is an unpopular slogan because people don't understand it. The cable news media rails against it, and so right-wing media rails against it, and nobody actually knows what that means. And so, for me, again, defund the police just simply means, yes, we're still going to have police, but guess what? They're overtaxed, overburdened with the things that they have to do. They should not be sent to do wellness checks on people. They should not be dealing with people with mental illness. They should not be doing any of that stuff. We should defund those programs. I'm sorry, not those programs. We should defund the police and fund programs like after-school programs, like poverty prevention programs, which again reduces things like crime, and then, fund social work, healthcare, etc. Again, you have police budgets in big cities that are bigger than some countries. I mean, come on. This is what's going on here. This is what's going on. But no, it's defund the police. It's defund the police. That was the problem. And by the way, here you had another situation that they're pointing at. And they're saying, oh, see, this is an example of how you got too far left because India Walton, India Walton was the Democratic nominee for mayor of Buffalo. So now she's a socialist. She ran a good campaign. And what happened? Byron Brown, who lost the primary against her, a Democratic primary, worked with Republicans and establishment Democrats, did a write-in campaign, and successfully won a write-in campaign. And they said, well, obviously, because she was too far to the left. That's why this write-in campaign, oh my God. So, you know what's funny? Whatever happened to vote blue no matter who? What would happen if, since like this person's the nominee, you're supposed to vote for them so you don't let a Republican win? Oh, no, that doesn't count. That doesn't count at all if it's a progressive that wins the nomination. And look, during the 2020 primary, during the 2016 primary, I've seen all sorts of messages from establishment, Democrats and supposed liberals or so-called centrists that are like, if Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm going to vote for a Republican. I'm done with this party because they're too far left. Ridiculous. Absolute ridiculousness. It's almost like, as I said, blue no matter who only applies for whenever a corporate Democrat happens to be a nominee. Oh, but there's more. Anderson Cooper. So we're going to go to CNN here. And we've got Anderson Cooper asking, again, if this is a result of the Democrats going too far to the left.
How much of this is a message just to the Democratic Party that it's too far left? I mean, that if you're the Squad or if you're, someone who's been calling for defund police or socialism or democratic socialism.
I wonder if Thierry had been able to stick on a message of economic progress, family leave and minimum wage and that kind of stuff, and maybe we wouldn't be making this argument. In other words, there was an economic message from the Democrats that was available and was necessary given the rising costs. But what happened is We pulled out of our own federal bill all the family leave stuff. You're undermining the economic message for Terry McAuliffe and leave him with Trump is bad and vaccine mandates are good. I don't know that it's an up or down vote on progressive politics.
All right, so look, Van Jones actually made sense there when he said, no, we have an actual economic message here. Except that, well, at least we would have had one had we not gotten rid of everything that was popular in that bill. They took everything that's remotely progressive out of the bill. And by the way, there was actually a tax cut that was added in to the Build Back Better, the human infrastructure plan, that would have given a 5% tax cut. I'm sorry, which would have given a tax cut to the 5% of Americans, the top 5%. Really? And that's the salt deduction. Canceling that. So, well, look at that. Here we go. And by the way, they also browbeat progressives into try to voting for that corporate bill, even when Joe Manchin hasn't committed to voting for it. Pramila Jayapal, who's the so-called leader of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, says, oh, no, we're going to vote for both. Actually, no, we're going to take it on faith. Joe Biden tells us that he can get the votes, so we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to vote on the bipartisan bill before we get the vote on the other bill, even though we haven't had Joe Manchin say yes. And don't worry, we trust him. No, my God. And so understand, progressives are not to blame for the loss of Terry McAuliffe. But at the same time, they should get some blame for not fighting. Congressional progressives did not fight to keep these provisions in that would have been incredibly popular. Had they kept the stuff in, had they put some red lines down earlier in the negotiations months ago and overruled people like Joe Manchin and went to his state, went to West Virginia, went to Kyrsten Sinema State, Arizona, and embarrassed the hell out of him. And we had gotten this passed. You think Democrats would have lost? No. Very, very unlikely, because guess what? People want these policies because it will, basically help the material conditions in their life get better. It will improve them. But no, we can't do any of that. The progressives do not have organization. They do not have leadership. Jayapal pretty much gave Manchin everything he wanted and is saying, oh, it's historic. Historic change. Historic change. No, it's not historic. By the way, again, this is massively pared back. It's 1.7 or 1.85, whatever, trillion dollars. Again, has almost nothing for the American people. There's a couple of things like, oh no, don't worry, we got negotiation, we got drug prices back in there. Okay, what's your drug price plan? We're going to allow the negotiation of the prices for 10 drugs. Maybe at 30 by 2028. Ooh, oh wow, ooh, progress. Transformational. Now look, I'm not saying the child care stuff isn't good. I think that's great. But there's not much else in there that hasn't been means tested or completely tossed out. I know progressives, they're just trying to add some stuff back in, like, oh, we're going to put this back on the table. But again, the framework here is still essentially bare bones, and you don't have Joe Manchin, who's going to be on board for any of this stuff. So, and by the way, if you decide to give the Democrats, the corporate Democrats, their bipartisan infrastructure bill, well, then that's it. Your leverage is gone. It's just gone. It's gone. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And progressives, they're falling into the trap. They're just walking right into it because they're the worst negotiators ever. Now, that said, look, I'm criticizing progressives, and it comes from a good place. Why? Because I think progressives are in good faith. I know some of you don't think that way. They think, oh no, totally sold out, corrupt. The system has corrupted them. They have been co-opted. I don't believe that. I do think that they are acting in good faith, but I think they're acting in too good a faith. I think they mean well, but they've unfortunately cut themselves off from progressive media, and now are listening to corporate media. They've fallen into the groupthink of Washington. It doesn't make them bad people. They have lost their way. They have absolutely lost their way. I think they've succumbed to the pressure and been browbeat into submission by all the pressures that are around them. And maybe they've even been convinced or convinced themselves, oh, if we help Biden pass his agenda, then maybe they'll see that, and give us a favor in return down the road when we try to pass our agenda. You see, I'm trading favors for favors. See, I help Biden with his agenda, then he'll help us with our agenda. But again, that's Lucy with the football. They're never going to do that. And if you give them the bipartisan bill, they're going to pull the football and they're going to laugh in your face as soon as you give away your leverage. And that is the problem. That's why we're losing. And again, going back to these losses, which portend some very bad things in the midterms, notice it's not progressives that have been blocking Biden's agenda. It has been corporate Democrats. It's been Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema. And yet the corporate Democrats and the mainstream media, they are blaming progressives anyway. And the party is unfortunately going to continue turning to the right. It's disastrous. That said, as bad as this news is, there is something that directly goes against their narrative. Okay? Progressives do win. Now, look, we've had some losses. Buffalo, terrible, terrible news. However, what you're not hearing a lot of is 70% of the DSA-backed candidates in this election cycle yesterday won their elections. Now, these are local elections. There are an additional 30 seats that are now filled by DSA-backed candidates. And in Tucson, Arizona, a proposition to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour in the state where Kyrsten Sinema is from, who thumbs down a $15 minimum wage proposal, passed with over 60% of the vote. What happened? Progressive policies win. DSA-backed candidates. They don't win on them all, but they do win when they run. And so that's the lesson here. It's not progressives, it's not going too left that loses. It's not having any principles. That's what loses. And also establishment pressure. So, again, while establishment corporate Democrats lose in places like Virginia, you do have victories here. And they may be small, but they're victories nonetheless. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, well, yeah, that went on. It went on for a while. Jesus Christ. Well, if the Republicans can say no, the progressives can't say no as well. Oh, the progressives can absolutely say no, and they should say no. They should absolutely say no to this bill, because it's a disaster. A little well-placed bravery would do it. Yes, fight, for God's sakes. Just fight. Okay. They had to pull out all the stops to defeat India Walton, including having the GOP candidate acting as a hype man for the Democratic write-in candidate. Absolutely, you're right, Lump. I was talking about that. Absolute travesty. Again, vote blue no matter who. Whatever happened to that? I guess it doesn't apply for progressives. All right. Following the victory of Republican Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, former President Donald Trump is claiming that this somehow proves his election fraud conspiracies.
We have a very corrupt election process in this country, Well, you look at the Virginia results last night. I was chairman of your campaign of Virginia 16 and 20. They say we lost in 2020 by 10%. Youngkin turns around a year later, wins it by 2%. How do you get the kind of a turnaround in 1 year?
Yeah, I don't believe that we lost it. I don't believe we lost Virginia. And I think they tried to get away with murder at Fairfax, but there were too many eyes on it this day. You know, when I ran, it was one of 50 states plus other areas, okay? The islands, etc. We have places that nobody ever heard of. And you got to see what a mess. What a mess, this election process. No, I don't believe it. I've heard Virginia's blue and all that. I never believed it was blue. MAGA turned out, and then we got him so much that we had even, numbers comparable to mine. And they said, oh, he's more popular. Instead of giving us credit, they start saying, oh, he's more popular than Trump. It's unbelievable. By the way, I never campaigned in Virginia. I was told you can't win Virginia. I disagree. And when you look at numbers in other states, like as an example, you go out to California where they send out, I think it's 36 million ballots or something. There's no way that a place like that California is that skewed to the Democrats. There's just no way. I think it's a total ripoff. I mean, you look at what goes on in California with the voting. A Republican, it's impossible. They send out tens of millions of ballots. And anytime they send ballots, it's a hard slog for a Republican.
Okay, so wait now. The guy that you endorsed wins in Virginia, and somehow that's proof of fraud in the 2020 election. Now, interestingly enough, had Terry McAuliffe won, as he was expected to, immediately Donald Trump, no matter what would have happened, Donald Trump still would have said the same thing. Election fraud, massive fraud, so much fraud. Everybody's telling me about the fraud. Oh, okay, right, sure. No, here's the thing. Democrats didn't turn out because Democrats failed to do the things for the voters. Again, Youngkin ran on critical race theory being taught in schools, which is not being taught in K through 12 schools. It's just not. It's only being taught as a college level course. Yes, in some Virginia colleges, but not in K through 12 schools. It's complete bullshit. It's a nonsense argument that was made up, but chuds love it. Chuds love it, and they turn out and they're like, oh my God, how dare you teach kids about racism? Ooh, critical race theory. I can't define what it is. I have no idea, but it sounds bad and scary. I better turn out and defeat it. Well, good job. Good job. You won. You won. Now critical race theory will no longer be taught, because it never was, in Virginia. Congratulations. What a win. But understand, that's how it works, right? So the Republicans, they give people a reason to turn out, and they do, even if it's the bullshit lie. Democrats, unfortunately, are like, well, we're not going to actually do anything to help you, but please vote for me because the other guys are terrible. Have you seen the other guys? Wait, hold on. Why would anybody want to vote for a party that consistently sabotages itself in order to please corporate donors? A bunch of losers. Incredibly sad. Baby. But look, man, everything Trump says comes back to voter fraud, and everything the Democrats say, unfortunately, seems to come back to Donald Trump, at least when it comes to establishment Democrats. It's just a stupid and vicious cycle where nothing gets done for the American people. Again, I don't have to tell you that there was no voter fraud in 2020, right? No mass voter fraud. It's made up like critical race theory or, the anti-vax nonsense. It's not real, but guess what? It gets voters out. It gets the chuds out. You know what gets Democratic voters out? Policy. Policy wins. Improving the material conditions of your family. Doing actual governing. That's what makes Democrats turn out. Now, that's the difference, too. The chuds love getting lied to. Oh, no, they're teaching kids how to hate white people. Don't worry, though. Let me to fix the problem that I just made up. And that's what it is, culture war stuff. They just make things up, say, I'm against that. I can't believe the Democrats are doing the thing that I just made up. Elect me and I'll fix it and I'll prevent that. And they say, oh, my God, yes, let's vote for him. But the Democrats are like, oh, yeah, you know what? I want to do higher wages. Oops, parliamentarian said no, but that's okay. I'll do something about climate change. Oops, the literal coal baron that is somehow part of the Senate also says no. But don't worry, I'll raise taxes on billionaires. Oops, my billionaire donors said no. What could we do? Here's some means-tested scraps. I mean, historic progress. Whereas Trump's insane pandering and constant lying about the election and all the culture war stuff, it works on their base. Because at least they have the appearance of solving the problem or trying to solve a problem, even if they've made up the problem. We get none of that from corporate Democrats. We get no actual solutions to problems, no actual policies to hang our hats on. And that's why we lose. That's how we lose. And by the way, only when Republicans get power and they fuck up so bad do Democrats win. Because people are like, oh my God, what a fucking disaster. I can't believe we voted for the leopards eating faces, people's faces party. And then our faces got eaten. I guess we'll go with the Democrats who aren't that bad, but we expect them to actually do things. Oh, oops, the Democrats didn't do anything. So again, like it's just a constant cycle of, oh my God, these people are horrible. Let's vote in someone else. Oh, these people are just really, really disappointing because they didn't do anything. Let's try someone else, and on and on and on and on and on. And so the only fraud here really is the system that forces us to be trapped in this cycle. And the only kind of system that creates monstrous people like Donald Trump in the first place. And this system is broken. Okay. Moving on. Go to Rahm Emanuel. Fun. Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley has come out publicly against the nomination of former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. So now Biden had nominated Rahm Emanuel to be the U.S. ambassador to Japan. Why? I have no idea, because Rahm Emanuel is trash. He is human garbage. He is refuse. Now Merkley put out this statement on his website earlier today. He said, quote, Black Lives Matter. Here in the halls of Congress, it is important that we not just speak and believe these words, but put them into action in the decisions we make. I've carefully considered Mayor Emanuel's record and the input of civil rights leaders, criminal justice experts, and local elected officials who have reached out to the Senate to weigh in, and I have reached the decision that I cannot support his nomination to serve as U.S. ambassador. While I respect Mayor Emanuel's many years of service and the points of view of my colleagues who have come to a different conclusion, I will be voting no when his nomination comes before the committee. So he's a no on Rahm Emanuel. That's good, because once again, Rahm Emanuel and his record are a complete and utter disaster. Remember, he's most commonly known as the man who covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald. So, Laquan McDonald was a 17-year-old black teen who was fatally shot by police officers. So this officer is Jason Van Dyke, and he was shot walking away. So, okay. Now, he was shot, by the way, 16 times in the back. 16 times in the back. Now, Emanuel, in his administration in Chicago, had actively blocked the release of evidence that eventually led to the conviction of Van Dyke. So his administration, as I said, seriously, covered up a murder by a police officer of an unarmed black teen. It's disgusting. Disgusting. So not only that, but again, Emanuel has proven time and time again how much of a terrible person he is. In fact, he had closed half of Chicago's public mental health clinics that ended up denying poor people resources they need for mental health. Not only that, but he also closed a total of 50 public schools while boosting private for-profit schools. And so there's that situation. He also used the R slur against progressives while attacking advocates for the mentally ill, screaming, "You're gonna respect me." No, I'm not. How about fuck off? I'm not gonna respect you. You've earned no respect at all. Even earlier, he convinced the Democrats, including Bill Clinton, when he was president, that their first and only priority was to raise money by sucking up to billionaires and corporations. Also, he was responsible for pushing Bill Clinton to the right on immigration and being even more hard right on immigration than the Republicans at that time. Disastrous. Emanuel even decided to pull a cinema, even before, cinema, and would never meet with his community leaders, wouldn't hold town halls, and would actually use that time, instead of meeting with constituents, to spend time fundraising with wealthy Republican businessmen. And at his time during the DCCC, Emanuel aggressively recruited right-wing candidates, frequently veterans of military that are, conservative Democrats, former Republicans, to run as Democrats. And of course, at that time, they would lose elections. He ended up actually overseeing a gigantic loss and letting Republicans take over Congress. And yet, this is the guy that Biden said, I owe you a favor. I'm going to elevate you to a position. I'm going to give you a cushy ambassadorship to Japan. What? Now, again, remember, these ambassadorships are handed out as rewards for loyal members, loyal Democratic Party officials. And let's not forget, Rahm Emanuel was also Obama's chief of staff. So this is somebody who Biden considered an ally and a friend enough to give him a cushy position. That should really tell you all you need to know about all three of those people. So good on Jeff Merkley. If only, other progressives like Bernie Sanders would have joined him in opposition. In fact, I think AOC did also agree with Merkley and said, yes, that's good. And so she's on that side. So good of her for speaking out. But as far as other progressives, look, he could still get this appointment if others don't speak up. He could still get this. He could still end up getting this cushy ambassadorship. I think they need like 3 more no votes to block him. And so I hope more speak up, and I hope more join to block his appointment and to be in opposition with him along with Jeff Merkley. But Merkley, of course, is the first and therefore gets the credit. And also, maybe if they do that, if they block him successfully, maybe that might send some sort of message like, I don't know, eat shit. Because that's the kind of message I want to send to Rahm Emanuel. Told you I was going to go hard. All right, more. With the pandemic stopping payments on student loan debt, activists and progressives have called on President Biden to just cancel it. Just cancel it already. That's the best thing that you could do right now. Especially since Joe Biden said, well, it's one of my priorities. One of my policy priorities is to cancel student loan debt. Now, of course, he was going to cancel like 50,000, then it went into 10,000, and now it's essentially nothing. So now he says, look, I'm sorry, I don't have the authority to do that. I can't do this on my own, meaning I'm going to have to push this or punt this to Congress. And of course, we know that Congress is essentially where everything goes to die, especially the Senate. So he just kind of got rid of it. Now, the thing is, he does have the authority. I've been telling you from day one, that Joe Biden absolutely has the authority. He has constitutional authority to take executive action to cancel all student loan debt. He could do that. He could do any amount. He could do 50,000, he could do 10,000, he could do 100,000, he could do all of it. All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. But he won't. And so one of the things that they were doing in order to try to placate progressives and activists is say, well, you know what? Okay, you kind of caught us. We might have the authority, but we're just going to have to check into it. That's what it is. So why don't we write this memo here, to do that? Hey, Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, give us a memo. Prepare a memo and tell us if the president has legal authority. Okay. Well, now that was on April 1st when they were, had told, and this is Ron Klain, this is White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain, who told Cardona to do that memo. So it's been a while. Where is it? Where's the memo? Where's the memo? So they didn't release the memo. I guess they kind of forgot about it. Oh, look at that. We forgot. Oh, gee, golly gee, memo. Where is it? Well, you know what? Some people decided to push the issue. Ilhan Omar and House lawmakers called on the president early in October and Cardona to release the memo. They set a deadline of October 22nd. A week later, 2 documents, including the memo, were released after the activist group Debt Collective's Thomas Goki obtained them via a Freedom of Information Act request. They had to FOIA this. So they said, oh, we're going to do the memo. Oh, don't worry, we're going to release it. Oh, don't worry. And then they didn't, and they didn't. And finally, somebody had to FOIA it. And even the FOIA version had massive redactions. They were redacted in pink. Oh, lovely. And did not have any details on the Department of Education's determination of whether or not the president had legal authority. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why they would do that. Now, as I said, the memo is redacted, so it doesn't really say anything. And yet, experts believe that the existence of this redacted memo proves that the president does have authority to forgive all student loan debt, but has no political will. Well, of course, that's what we've been saying for a long time. Progressives, we've all been saying the president has authority, but he doesn't want to. Nothing will fundamentally change. This is what Joe Biden told his donors. Okay? Now, Mike Pierce, executive director and co-founder of Student Borrower Protection Center, talked to Yahoo Finance about this. And here's what he said. Quote, this offers new evidence that every single lawyer who has looked at this issue, now including the lawyers at the Department of Education, reached the same conclusion. Joe Biden can cancel student debt with the flick of a pen, but refuses to do so. And that's why, of course, the entire thing is redacted. That's it. We've solved the mystery of why you can't see anything in it, because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know that we refuse to do this incredibly important policy that would affect 16 million borrowers. There's more. Natalia Abrams, president and founder of the Student Debt Crisis Center, told Yahoo Finance as well, the Biden administration's memo on student debt cancellation is just a reminder the president has not delivered on his promises to student loan borrowers. Yeah, but you understand, like, he had to deliver to the donors. And he has delivered to the donors. But the timing and release of the memo is actually far more interesting to me than what's actually in it. Because again, it really lets you know the priority here and what they had to get it. Now, there was one part of the memo that wasn't redacted. Oh, you can actually read it. Now, that actually refers to the authority Cardona has that allows him to extend the interest-free payment pause on federal and federally held student loans. Now, as we all know, payment on those loans is going to be resumed on January 31st, 2022. Okay, very soon, very soon. Now, that would be a bad idea to resume those payments. For one, it's a disaster. We're dealing with inflation right now. We're dealing with also massive, profits for corporations while workers continue to struggle following a pandemic that is still here. Still here. Now, it also appears the department had produced a memo titled "The Secretary's Legal Authority for Broad-Based Debt Cancellation" on April 5th, just days after Klain had mentioned its existence, 4 days after. So they have it, and they sat on it. They didn't do anything with it, nothing. Now, if you were fair, you could say, well, okay, look, they've been really, really focused on infrastructure. And, okay. Now, that human infrastructure bill, which was supposed to offer 2 years of free community college, was immediately abandoned. Gone. That's out. Free college, completely out. As is almost all progressive priorities. And Democrats, as a result, just got crushed in Virginia elections. They might want to get to this memo and maybe do something for the voters. Or guess what? It's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. Now, will they? Well, that's the question, right? No. I have the answer for it already. Of course they're not going to do it. I'd be very, very surprised. Now, what the Democrats are going to do is they're going to go more right-wing in order to get, and this actually comes from them, from what I've heard, they want to attract more suburban white voters. So basically Republicans, by running Republican light instead of actually serving the base, who is suffering under over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. There is more debt being borne by students today than what Manchin is willing to spend on human infrastructure, which, by the way, had a lot of pay-fors that were already built into it. It wasn't like the Trump tax cuts, which did not have any pay-fors. This bill did, before all of them were stripped out in order to appease the corporate donors. Because corporations and billionaires didn't want their taxes raised 1 cent. Not one goddamn penny. Not at all. I mean, and again, all of this debt is not going to disappear. We need to cancel it now. It needs to be canceled. And by the way, right now, 16 million borrowers are going to see their, servicers change. Why? Because a bunch of them dropped out. Navient, for example, gone. So now people are being switched over. It's going to get incredibly confusing very, very fast. It's going to be an absolute disaster for borrowers. This is the best time to cancel it. The best time. Make this your big win, or else you're going to get absolutely destroyed in the midterms. You're going to lose Congress, and you're going to lose to Donald Trump in 2024. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. One more quote from Abrams. She says, "The reality is that we do not even need the memo. The president already has the legal authority to cancel student debt, and experts from across the country, including Harvard Law, agree. We do not need to wait for this piece of paper to fight for debt cancellation. We are doubling our efforts to mobilize millions of student loan borrowers, parents, and allies in support of debt cancellation." I don't think it's going to help, as I said, honestly. It's a good effort, and we certainly should try, but I don't think the Biden administration is going to really change on anything. They know what's going on, but of course, their entire thing is, let's not do anything for the American people, and when we lose, we'll do what we always do and blame progressives. Biden is too conservative, too concerned about donors, and is an absolute disappointment. Okay. So let's go to mocking conservatives. Last story of the day. Representative Lauren Boebert recently went after Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg for taking paternity leave.
Well, the country fell into one of the worst supply chain crises since 1979, when this was still in style. The guy in charge of it all, Mayor Pete, was on a 2-month paternity, whatever the heck you want to call it, leave. The guy was gone, okay? The guy was not working. Because why? He was trying to figure out how to chest feed. Maybe someone should tell him, please, so he can get back to work. Listen, I'm a mother of 4. I delivered one of my children in the front seat of my truck because as a mom of 4, we got things to do. Ain't nobody got time for 2.5 months of maternity leave. We have a world to save here.
No, we've got a world to save here. Oh, look at me. I gave birth in my truck. Take that one, Buttigieg. Yeah, press X to doubt. There's no way. Please. And by the way, how American would it be to avoid a hospital to give birth? Because, you know, nobody has, like, insurance they could afford. But anyway, and by the way, that also tells you, you know, how barbaric we are and how super unfamily friendly this entire country is. But understand that this is not about Pete. Now, I have major issues with Pete Buttigieg, okay? For example, what he did in South Bend to the city's first black police chief. Yeah, and letting the donors basically take control and dictate to him what to do. Not only that, but his position on progressive issues, the fact that he's not progressive, and also maybe the fact that he does get paid leave while most Americans don't. I think every American should have paid leave, and that's really the issue here. In America, we have no days of mandatory paid leave. Zero, none. The average in the world is 29 weeks. There are some countries that are even more generous, offering up to 54 weeks. I think Japan has the highest amount of weeks for paternity and maternity leave, paid leave. Oh, okay, but we get nothing. Not a thing. Give birth, get back to work, get back to mines. So not only that, but only 19% of American workers get paid family leave. 19%. This is an embarrassment. It's barbaric. And you have a Democratic Party that's supposed to be the party of family and working people that can't even agree on putting 4 measly weeks of paid leave into a reconciliation bill where they need no Republican votes, because all Republicans, of course, hate families. They actually do hate families. They hate working people, and they've all decided to not vote for this. Now, speaking of Republicans, Lauren Boebert is a so-called pro-family values Republican, but she doesn't want to allow you to spend time with your family. Oh, no, we got stuff to do. Oh, don't worry about it. Go back to work. Your boss needs you by their side more than your family needs you. By the way, where are the families? Where are the dads? They're at work. I know. Where are the fathers? They always use that against black people, though. By the way, in a lot of circumstances, as a result of our drug war, our terrible drug laws and racist policing, are often more times in prison as a result of our carceral state that imprisons more black people, as a percentage of their population than white people. So they're vastly overrepresented in our prison system, and yet they say, where are the fathers? Where are the fathers? Ridiculous. No, she wants you back to work. They want you back in the mines. That's it, all they care about. Forget about bonding with your child. No, if you're a father, you don't need to bond with your child. Go back to work, go back to work. Company is your family. Corporation is your family. You must continue to go back to work and make shareholder profits. Is it any wonder why in this country, people are having less children? People don't want to have families. Why? Because this country is openly hostile to families. They don't want you to have families. They don't want you to spend time with your families. No paid leave. Very limited social safety net for children. Defunded public education. Expensive. Incredibly expensive secondary education, post-secondary education. This is a nightmare. This country is a nightmare for families. Now, Republicans, of course, get around that and claim to be pro-family because by forcing women to carry pregnancies to term they don't want. Oh, you're going to be forced to have that baby. By the way, we're not going to give you any paid leave to bond with that baby that we forced you to have. And then you're going to go back to work. As soon as you get that out, you go back to work. And then we're going to blame you for being a bad mother for not staying home with your family. God damn it. Republicans are such fucking terrible people. Horrible people. Awful, awful. Disgusting. Disgusting. Now, of course, here's the thing, right? Now, paid leave is incredibly popular. The Republican base and the rest of the country loves it. Why? It's super, super popular, and it makes sense. Yes, it's got over 70% support from Republicans, according to various polls. The average is around 70%. I've seen as far as 80%. Now, of course, here's the thing. Here's what they're doing to erode that support. Since, of course, the Republican Party only works for gigantic corporate donors, and they hate paid leave. They hate anything that helps families. Okay? And so what they're doing is they're turning this into a culture war issue by pointing at Mayor Pete. Okay? They're centering that attack on Mayor Pete by basically saying, oh, Mayor Pete, yeah, well, he gets paid leave, and he's gay. Well, what about the other gays? What about the trans people? They're going to get paid leave too. Do you want that? Do you want that? Oh, he's learning how to chest feed. Oh, because he's gay. Isn't paid leave gay? Oh, don't you hate it now? Stupid voters that we hate? We hate you and your family. We want you to always be at work. Never leave your cubicle. Never leave your factory post at all. And also, we want you to never get paid your worth. Ever, ever, ever. Don't you hate the gays? Aren't they the real problem, though? Aren't they the real problem? God damn it. God fucking damn it. And again, they're pitting people, working people against each other on popular policy that would actually help families. And I don't know, it might work in the chuds. And it's absolutely disgusting. Just gross. You know, for all the issues I have with Pete Buttigieg, I will always, always defend him against ridiculous homophobic attacks. As for the supply chain crisis, I mean, that's another issue, right? But let me just say this, okay? Pete Buttigieg has people working for him in that department. It's not just Pete Buttigieg alone with his train set, okay? No, and thank goodness, by the way, that it's not just him, because we'd be screwed. Not because he's taking paternity leave, because he has no idea what he's doing. Again, his main qualification for this job was, I've always liked trains. Look, they have a staff and don't really need Pete there. So good. Take paid leave. I think he supports paid leave, so that's good. Again, most Democrats do support paid leave. Now, unfortunately, that should be in the bill. It should be in the reconciliation bill. But apparently Joe Manchin hates paid leave, and other corporate Democrats hate paid leave. And so they're blocking it. But again, Democratic voters, and I think a lot of Democratic politicians at least say they like paid leave. But anyway, this attack from Boebert, of course, is dumb. We know that. And also super homophobic, because they can't actually really attack the policy itself on its own because their voters really like it. And so they have to attach it to like some culture war, homophobia, just garbage that overrides, that really appeals to the conservative, hate brain that they have, and say, oh, you know what? Pete Buttigieg will benefit. Oh, black people will benefit. Oh, gay people will benefit. Trans people. Oh my God. I better be against this thing that's going to help me and my family. How it works, fortunately. All right. In Canada, we have parental leave, but it's messed up. Mothers get 32 weeks, fathers get 37. Oh, that's interesting. And people who take sick leave for cancer get 12. Wow, that is very strange. Very strange. Hobart is mad at Mayor Pete because he gives head. Oh God. She thinks it's communist. Wow, I should have read that one before. Whoa. Okay. Wow. That did not go the way that I thought it would. Fun times. All right, before I go, I'm going to read some super chats here from some of you that some of you have sent in. Dango Bango says, defund the police is popular. People understand the slogan. Mainstream media is deliberately sabotaging that narrative with uninformed peeps. Look, I have read, though, that there are people in black communities that are actually against defund the police, mainly because I don't think they understand what it means, but I think that's mostly because most people don't understand what it means. You know, they haven't understand that most people watch mainstream, media, and they think defund the police is same as abolish the police. And so I think understand, like, the media is a huge obstacle we need to overcome in actually getting the message out, because that's the problem with progressives. Our message does not go out. The main messaging is controlled by corporate interests. And so they're not actually getting what it actually means. And that's, again, with most people. All right. Mighty Donner says, maybe our lot as a species has slowly succumbed to our own worst tendencies. Yeah. I hope not. I hope one of these days we can actually, move past some of that stuff. Defund mainstream media, agreed. Dancing Lobster 1 says, I'm from Virginia and I can't express how heavy my heart has dropped. It's a sad day. Yeah, it's sad. I agree with you there. Tiffany Starr says, love you, can't wait to play games. You inspired me to be a better content creator. Happy anniversary. Thank you. Anniversary is actually tomorrow. 10 years. 10 years with my wife. So happy 10 years. Happy decade. And thank you for those well wishes. I really do appreciate that. Don't worry, we'll game out later. Try to get some stuff done. Aquaman's Codpiece, welcome to being a new member. Appreciate that. And Dango Mango says, Republican light equals diet fascism. Certainly. Or at least any enablers. Okay. Let's see. Thank you for the follow, Apologetically Me, on Twitch. All right. Whew. Okay. Canada has no mandatory paid sick leave like the US, so that 12 weeks would be... Oh, okay, interesting. All right. And by the way, thank you for all the anniversary wishes. Get that. Let's raid. We're going to raid into Franny's show. Check that out. Is the Twitchuation what it is? All right. Interesting. Fun name, actually. I like that. All right, so we're going to do that. Thank you all for being here. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please consider becoming a member or a patron or, all that stuff that goes to help the show. Independent progressive media, we need it more than ever to combat the mainstream bullshit media. So, all right. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all tomorrow. Same time, same place.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Wet-ass keyword.
There's insanity in the control room.
Who's got a hammer?
Dunks. big, massive dump.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.